On to the third and fourth question is yes and no answer, if I'm not mistaken. Do your organization exposure to climate change risks? Don't take climate action and do you know your organization's exposure to climate change risks? If you do not take any action, many people said yes, you know what is the risk. And the next question, do you agree that integrating, of course, everybody said they agree that you need to take measures to be more climate resilient. So I think everybody will say yes to these questions, and I doubt anybody will say no. Do the panel want to respond to this, or we can move on to the further questions, right? So everybody seems to know that climate resilience is a pathway that organizations should take. But we also understand Malaysia, 99% of our industry is small and medium scale. So they sometimes feel it's going to be cost intensive to move towards a climate resilient pathway. And this is where I think I'm quite happy to say that we are the second country in the world to have this corporate governance Malaysia, this CGI, coming out from World Economic Forum, where we're trying to bring climate conversation to board meetings. We need the boards to start thinking about what little steps they can take to make the organization walk down this climate resilient pathway. And I think I see some familiar faces with the force behind CGM, that I think this is going to be very important, all right? And now we'll move on to the fifth.
Could we just actually pause on those third and fourth questions?
Certainly, certainly.
So my thought here is, it's great that 86% of us in the room believe that we or our organizations are acting on climate and that we're building, almost everyone believes that we're building, integrating low carbon resilience into our products. Now, the question I have is, outside of this room, if we went onto the street outside, will we get these numbers? As I think you've made clear, Dr. Tan, I somehow would doubt that. And that is not peculiar to Malaysia. That happens everywhere around the world. And so how do you actually build that climate awareness into the general public? I think that's critical. It's not so much these numbers as the numbers we would get from speaking with, on interviewing and polling the general public. And I think that's where really the action needs to happen.
True. Yeah.
Despite that, I think it's worth that we give ourselves a round of applause for this result.
All right. Okay, yeah.
And I think every one of us here, since we are climate informed, we should play a role in raising this awareness to the general public.
Right.
I'll stop there.
We are preaching to the converted.
I'll say one more thing, if I may,
That's
Dr.
right.
Nagu.
Yes.
So if I look at our scenario work, we actually have 3 scenarios.
Yes.
We have the sky scenario, which gets us to within the Paris target of getting to well below 2 degrees Celsius and aiming for 1.5. And we have 2 other scenarios in which we don't quite get to the Paris target.
Right.
And in those 2 scenarios, one is a very top-down, elite-driven approach, and the other one is a very populist, people power-driven world.
Right.
The sky scenario puts both forces together, and hopefully we get to meet our climate targets. But we can't have one or the other. We can't just have the elites talking to themselves, and we can't just have the people. We need everyone in the room understanding the problem.
Right, but Dr. Tan, we're probably talking to the converted, but we hope this conversation gets beyond, and I think that's very important to make it in a more simple
I think the good
manner.
thing about preaching the converted is that the converted need to know that people can make a difference.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. I'm sure. And
So the answer to that is that it's good. I think you're quite right, Dr. Wang, that we should give ourselves a round of applause, but let's not get complacent about it.
true. And I think Minister's example of Montreal Protocol is true. And we had Dato Bakar here, who was the DG, the former DG of DOE, who was very influential in making those important commitments happen, right?